All right, here we go. This is Brian King for another episode of the Stigma Free Zone. Thank you so much for joining me. The whole purpose of the Stigma Free Zone is kind of what you might expect. It's to live our lives with our physical or our mental health challenges and to do so without shame. To just realize this is part of our journey. This is part of our reality. This is how we live our lives. And we do not need to feel embarrassed, broken, or less than just because things are a little different for us. And the guest that I brought on today is my colleague, Tamara Collins. We're going to call her Tam for the sake of brevity and whatnot. And Tam and I have known each other, it feels like a year, maybe or so. And we've had a lot of exchanges on Facebook, and we definitely eat a lot of the same dirt as parents, as entrepreneurs, and as people navigating mental health challenges. And Tam is generous enough to share her story with us today. So Tam, welcome.
Hello, hello. I'm actually pretty excited. Like I was telling you before we got started, I love your group idea and kind of bringing some of the mental health challenges to light. So many people suffer with various mental health issues and are just afraid to talk about it and afraid to kind of get out there and let people know this is what I'm dealing with. And so I like the fact that you have a group dedicated to helping people do that.
I appreciate that. It's what she's referring to is my Facebook group that's called the Stigma Free Zone. And I was actually inspired by these interviews where it became more and more apparent to me that so many of us live with these challenges. And we also live with that fear of being judged, belittled, because of the stigma and the stereotypes that exist around any kind of mental health challenge, or even physical challenges for that matter. And I realized that I needed to do something bigger than just the ADHD realm. I needed to focus more on doing what I could to eliminate the stigma. And these interviews are a powerful way to do that. And yeah, thanks for the little plug there, Tam. I appreciate it. The kudos for the group. It's really become something beautiful, and I hope it continues to be so. So kind of introduce yourself a little bit. What do you do as an entrepreneur, and how has mental health impacted your life?
Well, the entrepreneurship journey is kind of a newer one for me. I broke out of my 9-to-5 probably a year and a half ago and decided I wanted to start my own business. And so I do marketing and business consulting because that's what my degree is in. I'm really kind of passionate about it because it's out of the box.
You're really good at it. Let's not forget that part.
Thank you. It's different enough every day that I don't get bored. That for me tends to be kind of a struggle. I hate being stuck doing the same thing all the time. And so marketing kind of allows me to do my own thing on my own terms. And I need that level of flexibility in my day-to-day. As far as mental health goes, and as far as that particular journey, I got diagnosed at 15 as bipolar, and that's relatively young for most people from what I'm told, but it's always just kind of been something that's who I am and what I've done. So I guess for me, I had the benefit of living with it for such a long time and having it diagnosed early that I've been able to kind of map out how it affects me and what it does in my day-to-day life. But I did not actually tell anybody about it, not employers, not school officials or anyone of that capacity, because I was always afraid that they would look at me different or they would judge me differently or I would get passed up for things because of it. I didn't tell any of my employers. I worked at a bank and I had to tell them because I had a manic episode at work and I had to take time off. I had to take FMLA. And that was the first time I ever told anybody that I had an issue. And then the next time was my most recent employer for the same reason. I don't know if Now, you're not bipolar, but I would imagine that if you have a flare-up of symptoms or you have...
in my case, it would be anxiety.
Right. And it just kind of waylays your entire life. I don't get it often, but once or twice a year is just kind of a waylay. And then the rest of them are these tiny little manic episodes, like what I did this last week. I went on vacation and it threw off my routine and it threw off my medications and it kind of twisted me up. And so this last week I had like a little mini episode that I'm trying to recover from. But you saw part of it. I posted part of it in the group about trying to navigate some manic days. And I think a lot of us are too afraid to say, hey, I'm going through something. You know, they talk about taking a mental health day, but how many people actually take their mental health days? It's very few.
And there are people that use that term very casually when they just, I need some rest, or, you know, I've worked too hard, I'm a little brain fried, you know. But for folks like us, you know, when we have something going on, it's pretty much to or over the point of being able to function. And we just need to check out of reality for a day or two.
Yes. And I did that. I took a day to myself, and the next day I was unable to do that. And so I had to navigate 3 very important meetings in the middle of just a really awful day. One of which was a national campaign with the American Lung Association for one of my clients. And the entire morning, so like with anxiety and those more manic feelings, it feels like a panic attack when you're super manic. And so it's like being at the top of a roller coaster. So you're going up, and your chest gets tight, and you're like, oh, I'm on my way down. I'm on my way down. And then you just kind of chill at the very top, and you're waiting for the crash. And so my meeting day was that same kind of feeling, just all day long, just up here, chest tight, threw up a couple times, and I'm stressing this meeting, trying to figure out how I can get out of times. Yeah.
Okay. So in the midst of this feeling of being up and here at the top of the roller coaster, you had to show up as a professional at these meetings. So give us a sense of how you were able to do that.
Well, a lot of it, I planned out what I was going to say. And I guess because I've lived with it for long enough, you know how you, let's think of a good way. Sports. You get really anxious when you're playing sports or you're going to run a race, but you know how to run. You've practiced it. You've trained for it. You've set yourself up. You know you're a good runner. And so even though you're anxious about it and you're nervous about this race, you know the mechanics of it. And so, you know, the night before, I knew what I wanted to say to this woman. I knew the course that I wanted this interview to go. I knew where I wanted to lead her to. And so I wrote it all out the night before. And I wrote out, I'm going to say this. I think she's going to say this. I'm going to do this. And I mapped it so that even though I was way up here and kind of spacey, I would know where I was moving and what I was doing. And I got up in the morning and I planned out my outfit, and I got up just super up here. And so I was sick to my stomach. And then I was so sick to my stomach, I couldn't eat. And that made me sick. So I got sick before I went to work. Cycle. Yeah. And because my meds were off and I had to get back on track with my medications, I take a really high dose of Depakote, and it makes your stomach upset anyways, especially when you can't eat anything. And so when you're manic, it's even worse because you're trying to get your meds right and you're trying to navigate the world, but you're throwing up your medication because you're not eating and you're just generally kind of off balance.
Now I can see people, and you know, I've known a couple in a similar circumstance where they would have just called in sick. with all that going on. Oh, can we reschedule the meetings? I can't do this today. But you push through.
I would have loved to do that, but I knew that if I did that, my client would have to do the meetings himself. And I was really afraid that he would make it a sales pitch. And I was really afraid that he would push this woman away from this educational avenue that I was trying to move her towards, and have us, become one of the speakers for their organization, have us become one of the teachers, and make it, you need this product, you need to buy this thing. And I didn't want him to lose the opportunity that was presented. And when you have these really rare opportunities and you're able to connect, it's okay, well, do I let this stop me, or do I just push through it and keep going? And I didn't want to lose the opportunity. So then the only other option was you push through it. And so you figure out what it is you have to do to make it through that day. So for me, it was, I'm going to throw up a couple times. I'm going to put on some lipstick. I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to think about what I want to say, and I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can, which is exactly what we did.
First,
and then I threw up again.
Get some lipstick. Okay. This is something I'm going to have to get for myself when I go to the store later. Put on some lipstick, bam, and go after it.
That's right. That's something early on for me that I learned kind of helps me cope. And so when I'm manic and or when I'm real low, when it goes the same for both cycles, when I'm feeling off, if I dress up or I look nice or I do my hair, things that help to bring a sense of normalcy to how I'm feeling, or make me feel more confident in my own skin, will help to keep me at baseline a little more. And so I look for those things that increase my confidence level, because a lot of the times with my bipolar on either side, with the mania or the depression, it feels just kind of out of control. And so the more control I can get over my environment, the easier it is to navigate and the faster it goes. And so it's, mapping out schedules, it's writing things down on paper, it's making dinner, even though, you don't want to get off the couch or you don't want to leave your room, it's doing those scheduled tasks and making sure
Earthquake.
My phone is very precariously placed on my table right now, so that I can look you in the eye and be able to talk to you.
It's indicative and metaphorical of the balancing act that we're talking about. It just plays right into it beautifully. Becky is one of our viewers right now, and she mentioned that makeup helps her too. And I've come to appreciate things like the fancy nails that women get, the fancy nail jobs and the makeup. I have some tattoos, and I'm beginning to see these things as just artistic expression. It's just more of a way of a person just expressing how they're feeling, what their experience is. And some people think of makeup as, oh, you're hiding yourself, you're covering yourself up. I'm not going to go there. If that's your reality, fine. But I look at it and I say, man, that is really a cool look that you put together. And the way that you describe it is something you can control. It's a routine, getting up in the morning, putting your makeup on, picking out your outfit, reviewing your schedule, and finding some sense of predictability in what otherwise feels like chaos.
Yes. And it's real simple stuff. And, if you can get a hold of the simple stuff and you can kind of narrow down the simple stuff, then you can start to pick at the big things, and you can start to wrangle in some of those bigger things. But even if you look at it as wearing a mask, like I'm losing it, right? I'm all over the place. I'm sketch, but my makeup's done real nice. My hair's done real nice. So when I'm talking to you on the outside, you're not going to see that I'm losing it over here. So whether you look at it as a mask or not, that's a level of protection between what I'm feeling and what I'm portraying to everybody else. And so, I mean, it goes both ways. You
And
can look at
honestly,
it as,
a
yeah,
metaphor that just comes to mind is, let's say you're on a boat that's on the seas and the waves are a little rocky. Are you going to stand there and let yourself be flopped around on the deck, or are you going to grab a hold of the railing?
that's right.
And the
And
makeup in your schedule could be the railing, and who on earth would blame you? So if you need to put your makeup on with a paint roller, you go for it. You know,
right.
if that's going to make the difference between you being able to show up at your best or as close as possible and be effective and deliver for your client, or if it means you're all over the place, put on makeup.
Right. Well, and that's exactly it. And something else, though, that I found was actually really important is I spent a lot of years not telling anybody because I wanted that promotion. I wanted that job. And if you tell people I'm bipolar, I'm manic, sometimes I get really angry and I fly off the handle, or sometimes I'll cry randomly for no reason and I don't know why and I don't know how to stop it and I don't know what to do, then when they look at you for like, I'm going to manage an entire department, I'm going to manage these 15 people, it's, well, can you handle that? What do we do if you just lose it and you can't function and you don't know what to do? So you keep it under wraps and you don't tell anybody. You're like, this is going to prevent me from getting where I want to be, right? And so this last employer that I had, I was with him 5 years. And it wasn't until year 4, I had a manic episode. I lost it. I had to take time off. I didn't sleep for days, and got real just kind of out there, real angry, real agitated. And I told him, I sat him down. I said, listen, I'm bipolar. This is what this looks like. This is how it affects me. This is kind of where I'm at with it. And he goes, that makes so much sense. He goes, I wish you would have told me that, because that makes a lot of sense with how you behave and how you think and how you need things. And he goes, I can handle that. He goes, just let me know when you need time. Let me know when you need space. And if you're feeling these things, tell me and we'll handle it. Now, the weight of that was huge to be able to say, hey, cool, I'm having a bad day and I'm not going to lose my job if I need to go home. And I think a lot of us are too afraid to approach it because of the repercussions or the stigma attached to I'm crazy and they don't want me because I'm crazy.
Now,
Whereas
it's important to look at the other side of that, because my last pay job, I found out that I had Asperger's along with my oldest son back when he was 7. And this revelation for me was stressful because it was such a huge paradigm shift for me. And I disclosed it to my boss at the time, and he began questioning my sanity. He thought that I have Asperger's, therefore I'm crazy. And before I knew it, and this was a man that had no boundaries, so he was talking to my colleagues, and I learned that people were talking about me behind my back. And prior to that, I had the respect of my colleagues, and now they're beginning to question that. I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not welcome here anymore. I'm being made a pariah. And shortly thereafter, I tendered my resignation and started my own practice, working with Asperger's and so on. And that was like 12 years ago. But it can go either way. I mean, it's beautiful, and I'm glad you had that experience. But self-disclosure is kind of like rolling the dice, isn't it?
It's scary, yeah. I had a similar experience when I worked for Wells Fargo, and it was, is this job too much for you? Can you handle it? Are you, when you have a bad call, is it because you're overreacting? Is it because, you're this and you're that? And I didn't stay very long at that job because of how I was treated by my management team, because they thought I was crazy. They thought that it was just me being unbalanced. And like the first or second time that someone says, did you take your meds today? That's some next level. And it makes me super angry.
Wow, that is, what's the word for that? It's condescending, judgmental. It's
yes. And the problem with it is I get real offended and I get real upset. Like, on the same token, my husband will ask me it, and sometimes when I get real high or low, I'll forget my meds, and it'll be 2 to 3 days. And after 2 to 3 days, as the Depakote levels deplete and drop, I start to get a little edgy. I start to, get a little mean, and I start to get a little frazzled. And he'll ask me, "Did you take your meds?" And I don't think I'm being that crazy, but to everyone else around me, it's, "Hey, something's not right."
Well, and the reality is, when you're putting so much effort into keeping your inner experience managed, you're not paying attention to what's coming out. And,
No.
and it's nice when you have other people that can prompt you. And I'm hoping
you
that
have to have that
your husband approaches you from much more of a checking in. Hey,
most of the
did you take your
time.
meds today, as opposed to, "Man, did you take your meds today?"
Most of the time. Now, granted, there's certain days like where I'm on the next level, and he does it as a, "Hey, you're being crazy and you need to stop." But it's because we've established that it's part of that healthy relationship. And there's very few people that could tell me that or say that to me without me feeling offended. Like, you have to have that close circle. You have to be able to have 3 or 4 people you can say, "Hey man, I'm manic this week. So if I'm forgetful, if I'm, a little snippy, this is what I'm working through." And I take so much Depakote that I can't really go much higher. And so when I have breakthroughs, I just have to work through it. There's not a lot you can do one way or the other. Just like if you have an anxiety attack, you just have to work through it. And, you take a deep breath and you tell yourself, "It's okay. This is not that bad. This is manageable. I can do this."
So what you just pointed out is the importance of self-talk. And how do you do your best to maintain your own level of normalcy, a level of manageability? And another thing you pointed out is kind of having your partnerships around you, the people that are looking out for you, that support you, that check in with you, as opposed to feeling that sense of isolation. Like,
yes.
"Oh, I hope nobody sees this. I hope nobody notices I'm anxious today. I hope nobody notices I'm manic, because what will they think?" As opposed to those people that step up and say, "Hey, Tam, how you doing today? You're seeming a little, up there."
Right. Well, and you have to have those people. So like my assistant, for example, for a long time, I didn't want to talk to her about any of it, but she shares my office and she's in there, and you can tell, like, when you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. And it's very apparent. And so if they don't know kind of the more internal workings of it, it's, what the heck is wrong with her? Like, she's out here, And so I had to tell my assistant, "Hey, I'm bipolar. This is where I'm at. Sometimes, this is how I feel. If you see this is normally where I'm at." Part of mine is also OCD. I can't handle random sounds. I don't like styrofoam. I don't like things clicking or popping or being out of place. Yeah, that little metronome on our table is killer. But I don't like those little ticks. And so when my assistant would sit at her desk and she'd tap her pencil on the desk while she was working, I tried just to block it out, and it would make me so mad by the end of the day that I just couldn't handle it. And so then it's
a justifiable homicide defense that you can use in all those circumstances. With my wife, if anybody's smacking while they're eating, she goes for the biggest knife in the kitchen. It's almost that bad sometimes. She can't stand the sound.
No, it's awful. Like, awful. And I have those triggers, and I know what they are. And so then I have to try and tell people this upsets me and I can't handle it. And I have to try and do it with diplomacy so that I don't just seem like I'm crazy. And so it's one of those things I had to tell her, "Hey, could you please not do that?" And it was, okay, I don't notice I'm doing it. Well, I 100% notice that you're doing it, and I wish you would stop. And so we had to find compromises. So I bought her silly putty. I got her, because she has ADHD, so she had to fidget all the time.
Oh, match made in heaven, huh?
Oh, it's rough. It's like that at my house. My son has ADHD as well, and I have trouble with noises and motion, like just random fidgets and moves. I can't. It drives me crazy. Just sit still, and they can't just sit still. It's not a thing. And so, dinner at my house it's an exercise in patience on every single aspect of it. And then they get anxious because they don't know if I'm going to be able to handle them eating on that particular day. So it's like eggshells at dinner time. And so we just try and kind of break up dinner. And
it almost sounds like a battle royale of sensory needs.
Some days are harder than others, that's for sure. And so normally I'll come in about halfway through dinner and sit down and eat, so that I've kind of minimized the impact of dinner, because I don't like smacking.
Do you have some everyday self-care tips or things that you do to just be good to you when you're not having to be on and show up for the rest of the world?
Yes. So even when I'm not having to be on, I still try and make sure I get dressed every day, make sure that I'm doing my hair, and make sure that I'm putting that time into myself to where I can look in the mirror and say, oh, I look pretty today, because that helps me to feel confident in who I am. If I look like I've been on the couch for 5 days, then I don't feel quite as powerful. Now, I may have been on the couch for 5 days, but when you and I talk from here up, I want it to look like I'm on point. Like if you and I are doing phone meetings, I'm going to make sure here up I'm looking fly, so that I'm prepared. I write everything down at the start of the day and at the end of the day. So I look at my calendar and I look at my schedule. And when I get to work, I write down, this is what I'm doing. These are things that I have to get done. And these are things that I want to get done, because they don't always match. And so, I might have this giant list of things I want to get done, but maybe today I can only manage doing these few things. And so I'm going to put my time and attention on these few things that I have to get done.
Right there is golden advice. Because one of the things I used to do, and it wasn't that long ago, where I would beat myself up because I was used to being able to just plow through this list and feel so accomplished, because I was basing my measure of success on quantity, not quality. But then as my MS started getting worse and I was spending more time in bed, then I realized, hey, it's cool to do a couple things exceptionally well than doing everything. So I'm glad that you shared that tip. It's so important.
Yeah, I have that one. And then at the end of the day, I write everything down that I did do. And I try and think about 5 things that I felt proud of myself for. And that's whether I'm high or low. Like when you're manic, you think you can do everything. So you have this giant to-do list. You're trucking along. You're like, yeah, I'm a superhero. I got this. But you don't do everything completely, and you don't do everything necessarily well all the time. You leave little loose ends, and you stack them up and you stack them up. And then when you get back to baseline, you've got all these half-done things. And so then you feel bad because you didn't complete all these things. And when you're down low, you don't want to do anything. And so daily activities, I'm going to eat, I'm going to brush my hair, I'm going to, play with my kids. You don't want to do those things. And so I got in the habit of saying, today I did this, and I'm proud of myself for doing these things, whether I'm up or down. And so I try and do it when I'm at baseline too, so that I can feel proud of myself every day. Even if it's something little, it doesn't have to be something big. It's just little things.
Amen to that. Tam, this exceeded my expectations, this conversation.
Well, good.
I love the strategies that you have shared on just how to keep your balance when things feel less than balanced. And there's
Yes.
little things, little rituals, little habits, like the way you keep your list, the way you check in with yourself at the end of the day and list several things that you're proud of yourself for. Those little habits in your darkest moments or in your more manic moments, or just in those days where you feel like, man, I haven't done very much. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere in life. You can go back over those lists and say, man, I am making more progress than I realized. My brain is just stuck in that funk. And having these reference can be very effective for pulling you out of it. So thank you so much for that. And everybody who's watching today, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful to you. But please share one of your takeaways from this interview with Tam, because she dropped so many pearls. I want to make sure that you have taken something you can operationalize. And for those of you that come in a little bit later, watch the replay. That's the beauty of it. She shared so many valuable nuggets. I want to make sure you get as many of them as you can. So Tamara, you got this wonderful marketing work that you do. Where can people find you who want to learn more about that?
So I have a Facebook page called Business Boldly, and I share something every day, some type of small marketing tip. I also have a website, businessboldly.com, and there's blogs on there. There's content resources, there's free ebooks that you can download. And in addition to that, if you wanted to do full-scale marketing services or work with me for a marketing strategy, that's where you would sign up for those as well.
Awesome. Do me a favor, Tamara, shoot me those links. I'm going to add them into the description of this episode everywhere that I put it so that people can find you more easily. And thank you again, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate your support with this journey that we're on. Thank you again, Tam. You've been absolutely spectacular. Looking forward to talking.
Thank you for having me.
Anybody that's interested in joining the group we talked about at the beginning, the STIGMA FREE ZONE.com will take you right to the Facebook group. So thank you again for watching. Have a magnificent week. This has been Brian. We will talk again soon.
Thanks, Brian.